Yo, it's Sid and Deon, brothers on a comedy path. All jokes aside, we about to change the math. Real talk plus no filter equals not your usual chatter. From sports to politics, all subjects matter. Never shallow, we about to go into the deep end. Get ready to dive in, go ahead, grab a friend. Now this is grown people business, keep them kids inside. Now that's debatable, jump on, it's time to ride. Yeah, now that's debatable. Now that's debatable. Here we go. Time to start the show.
Man, I don't know what. Maybe we have to start recording this thing during the day. I got sunlight coming through. I got coffee in my cup. I'm feeling all kind of jazzed up. I'm pumped up. Thank everybody out there for all of the views we got on episode number 2. We appreciate you. If you enjoy the show, share it. If you hate our show, share it. Man, we just love it. Keep those comments coming in. I love getting a chance to sit down and chat with you guys. If I don't get to your comments as quick as you would like, I apologize. I'm producing films. I'm writing new jokes. I'm on stage. I got a wife to, I got to keep her happy. You know what I'm saying, after fellas. You know what you got to do. This is not as debatable. I am Sidney Smith. That is Mr. Deon Curry over there. We are your master debaters, man. Thank you guys for joining us again for another week. I am not on stage this weekend, so I have nothing to tell you there. Deon, are you on stage this weekend?
I'm judging a comedy contest tonight at up in Purdue, West Lafayette area. So
there you go. But we got a great show lined up for you that's going to drop later on today, actually, because we were actually recording this Friday morning, my time, Friday afternoon, Deon's time. We're going to get into some Gary Owen talk. He was just on Club Shay Shay, so we got to get on that. There's one thing. You know what? Not the biggest Gary Owen fan. That might come back to bite me one day if I get booked with him. He's like, yeah, I heard you're not the biggest fan of me. But I will say I love the interview. There was one thing I want Deon and I to get into. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into some Donald Trump and his disgusting thoughts of his own daughter, which is no secret to anyone at this point, but we're going to get into that. And then, of course, we got to talk to the fellas out there and to the ladies. Rudy Gobert misses a playoff game in order to see the birth of his first child. So we're going to jump into that too. But before we do, let's hear from Deon real quick, see how he's doing. It's been a week since we all talked amongst each other. And then we're going to jump right into the show. Do not fast forward through this. Do not turn this off because we didn't jump into the topic as fast as you like. We want to get to know you. You should get to know us. Don't be stingy with your time, people. Deon, tell these people what's going on. I'm pumped.
For anybody who ignored Sidney's don't fast forward, thank you for listening to what I'm about to say, because if it were me, I would definitely fast forward this part just because he said something despite him.
Punk.
But he knows that that's the type of person I am. You ain't finna tell me I can't do what my free I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to do this show with you once again. Favorite time of the week, the time we get to spend together debating face to face, because it's really no debate. I mean, I slaughter you just about every week and you keep coming back for more. And that is why I love you, because you let me sharpen my debate knife against your fleshy ideas that never go anywhere. And so I've just got this tool set of such sharp intellectual skills that I've been using to stab you for the past 4.5, 5 years now. And today's going to be another one of those times. And I'm very happy and very excited to be here about. Yeah,
I want to tell you. I want to tell you a couple things. First, I'm gonna say you must have pre-wrote that little a little soliloquy you had, because that was the smartest you've ever sounded on this show. And because of that, second of all, I curb stomp you every week. You just so just getting ready to happen again. I feel like this week. Let's go ahead and jump into this, man. So for folks who didn't see it, again, Gary Owen was just on Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharpe's podcast. By the way, Shannon said this, or I think Gary said it during the interview. That episode of he and Cat Williams is now the most watched video ever on YouTube. So applause to Shannon for that
interview.
Yes,
it's not the most watched video.
I'm sorry, you're right. I apologize. Interview on YouTube. So applause to him for that. That is a great feat, because YouTube's been around forever. And if you've ever done anything on YouTube, all you do is look at your numbers. So it's great. It's great for him. Gary touched on something while he was talking about his divorce that he got a few years back. And one of the things that kind of came up during that part of the conversation was his opener that he had fired called up his present wife that he was divorcing at the time and was saying that Gary had messed around on her with this other woman. And that was the reason why this opener actually got fired, because Gary found out that the opener had slept with this woman as well. And so this all kind of came about during mediation, I believe, between Gary and his at that time wife. My thought on it was this. And if you haven't seen the interview, Gary says he had no idea that this opener had supposedly slept with this woman as well. But here's where my mind went on it. And this is not saying that what Gary did was right or wrong. This isn't me casting a judgment on that. I'm a comedian. I've been a comedian a long time. Deon has as well. Hell, if you're a travel salesman or saleswoman, shit happens on the fucking road. It's just the nature of the business. And sometimes it doesn't happen, just depending. But here was my problem, Deon. The brotherhood, the sisterhood of comedians, the green room, the road, all this shit is supposed to be sacred. That is how it's handed down from headliners. Without a big discussion or a big speech, this is how it's kind of handed down from one comedian to the next comedian. And as you make your way up, you hand it down and you teach it to the ones coming up behind you, so on and so forth. So that was like one of my biggest problems is there no longer any type of respect given to this art and craft and all of the things that come with it?
KYP, Sidney, know your personnel. Gary Owen hires this guy. They work together for X amount of years. This guy learns the ins and outs of what Gary Owens does and doesn't do and who he does and doesn't do it with. So he's got that information now. Something happens to where they're no longer together. Is that the type of person who's going to tell secrets or things that you don't want known to spite you? And to me, the only blame I place is Gary Owen not knowing that was the type of guy he was dealing with. Because the guy who went and called the wife, he was a snake from the get-go. And it was, a means to an end. He didn't see Gary Owen as a brother, as a mentor or whatever. He just saw him as a check. And that the second he wasn't getting that check anymore, it's snake time. So for me, what's sacred between us as performers and what we do and, who we take with us and that type of thing. If you don't know those people before you put them on in that regard, then anything that happens that blows up your spot is your fault.
You make a good point. And I think sometimes people can get slipped through the cracks because, Kevin, not to be bringing up old shit like that either, but Kevin got caught up in some shit in Vegas a couple of years ago. And the only reason was because someone he had in his camp he put money in his pocket. He had put him in projects, actually recorded and tried to blackmail Kevin. And so I think sometimes people can slip through the cracks. They can be around you for years. I mean, I look at this subject and I even take it for people who are not entertainers, for you guys out there watching, you may not be in entertainment at all. We all have friends that you have around you and you think, this is my ride or die. This is my ride or die. And unfortunately, it's not until a ride or die moment happens that you get a real chance to figure it out. And Deon, you're making a great point. How many people do you have or can you have around you if you keep too big of a circle, especially where you got some Brutuses, not, to use a old Julius Caesar, old Shakespeare. You got a Brutus right there behind your back with the knife out, waiting to stab you in your back the first chance he or she gets. And sometimes it can be a little tough to know. That's why, and Gary brought it up. He said, that's why Kevin has kept the plastic cup boys around him the way that he has. Cat Hart uses the same squad around him for the most part. And you do Cat. What did I say? I said Cat.
You said Cat Hart.
Sorry, I'm combining two people here. I'm sorry. And then that's why you see Cat Williams.
Hey, well. 6 foot together.
That's why you see Cat Williams keeping the same people around them as well. And it may even, and I don't know this, but I'll throw this name. Maybe this is why there's some headliners who show up and they want the green room only to themselves. They don't want anyone else in the green room at all. I don't want to name any names, but we all, if you're in the business, you know what I'm talking about. It pisses us off if you're the supporting comic, but that could be a reason. Maybe they got burned and they don't want anyone around to see what they do or hear what they say and so on and so forth. So all of this can kind of probably work hand in hand to a certain extent.
Well, when you're the guy, it's your show, it's your way, it's how you want things done. You have to remember to protect yourself from yourself. So,
Agreed.
To me, this situation, as ugly as and terrible as it is for the relationships comics have with each other, for the guy that you bring on with you, he's supposed to protect you at all costs. It's part of the relationship between, if someone brings you on the road with them, you are to protect them as if you were protecting yourself. That's part of, hey, if they're doing you a solid, because no one has to take you anywhere. Like, I need people to understand that no matter how close you are with someone on a friendship level, business wise, they don't have to if they don't want to. I mean, and so knowing that, you should have a certain level of respect for that person. And I don't know the guy's name, but him having zero respect for Gary Owen in the professional sense of, hey, you've taken me to places that I wouldn't have gotten to by myself in the amount of time that I've done it. To trash that, to me, just, I can't, because no one's going to want to work with that guy. Right. Moving forward.
Right.
Whether he was right or wrong for doing what he did.
Because words going to get out. Words getting out.
I mean, if it was on Shannon Sharpe's podcast, it's only a matter of time before people in Beirut and Islamabad know.
Well, I mean, even without the podcast, if I'm Gary Owen, you're Gary Owen, I'm calling every headliner that I'm cool with and saying, yo, do not work with this dude. Do not take this dude. Do not trust this dude. I'm telling everybody. And if you've been around as long as Gary been around, it has tentacles in a lot of different areas, from Kevin Hart to Cat Williams to so on and so forth. Bro, that's not a good look for you.
Yeah, it just speaks to the short-sightedness of certain people. And this guy, because he was spurned in the moment, because he was no longer working with Gary Owen, decided to go and set the rest of his future on fire with working with someone who is of the same caliber as him. Obviously, if Gary Owen has taken you with him, he thinks that you're somewhat talented, perhaps. That would be the assumption. Now, I know headliners who take people who they know aren't funny because they don't like to work. Yeah. And that's fine. But most headliners, I would say 98% of them, take people who they find to be either A, pleasant to be around, or genuinely funny, if not both. For him to, because that relationship ends, go and burn the rest of his future, it's just so short-sighted and ridiculous. I know a couple headliners who were on the road with Rodney Carrington, and they were making great money. But then out of the blue, Rodney was like, all right, I'm getting somebody else. And that was it. And these guys had spent at least 2 years apiece on the road with him, making great money, doing 15 minutes. And then to have it end abruptly, not because they did anything, but because simply he wanted to go in a different direction. They didn't go out there and slander him and call him names or tell any secrets they might have learned about him. They thanked him for the opportunity, asked him to be a reference for future endeavors, and they're both working like all the time. Yep. So to me, as a comic, I don't care what the headliner does to you. You have to think about yourself and what's going to happen when you become that position and how you should react. This guy going and calling Gary Owen's wife to try and get, there was no win in that situation whatsoever.
And you make a great point, a couple of great points. One, you don't know.
Of course I do.
Man,
told you about them steak knives I had sharpened over.
First of all, the steak knives don't matter. We're on the same side right now. It's like we're on the same side right now. You're right. You don't know why you may get dismissed from that road gig with that headliner. Could be a number of reasons. I know that there is a headliner out there that his or her spouse are very a part of their career and said, "Hey, I love the folks you're taking, but it's time for you to get some fresh." And that person's like, "Well, I don't know if I really wanna." She said, "I'll handle it." And that spouse went on and helped find new people to take on the road and think that train keeps moving. It's nothing against you. That someone else in his camp just said, "Hey, it's time to freshen up. You've been doing this for a while. Maybe freshen it up with some new faces and that type of thing." And it kept on moving. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with you necessarily. I love how you said those openings for Rodney Carrington handled it. "Hey, man, can you give me a reference so I can continue to get work? I know you want to move in a different direction, but I would still like to make money. So could you help?" And Rodney was kind enough to do that for them. And I love the end of that story and how that worked, which is hopefully you would hope that's how it always would work. Both parties can be adults about it. I did want to tell this story, though. Story time from Uncle Sidney. Look, you said you said when you go on the road with that headliner, it is your job as that road feature, whatever, to care for that person, to watch their back, so on and so forth. You are so right about that. There's this story. I'm gonna try to tell it, and folks, normally I hate telling stories. I can't mention the names, but I don't want to burn people any sort of way. But it's such a good story. Headliner comes to town. Headliner and the feature go off to see baseball games. They see the games. They drink a lot of alcohol during the day before the show. Headliner is late getting to show. The other comic is late getting there because he gets into some situations. Management of that headliner comes back and says, "This person is never to work with our guy ever again." Completely separates these two from being. So to your point, had the feature been doing his or her job and sometimes protecting the headliner from themselves, who knows what that person's career could be right now in terms of what type of exposure and work they could have had over the years with this. And the headliner is fucking huge, absolutely huge.
See, again, people get excited in the moment, and I myself have been guilty of this, to not looking for the longer play, but the relationship that you build when you work with somebody. Because, for most of us, the way that we get picked to go on the road with a certain headliner is they come to our city, we perform with them while they have their week there, and then they enjoy the relationship that they have with us and the work that we do on stage so much that they go, I would like to do this in a different city. And that's how the relationship is built. When that happens, a lot of, I would say, younger people, because I don't think I've ever seen an older comic who's been taken on the road have this happen to them. But when you're younger, you're excited. It's your first time. I'm going out with this person for the first time. I want to do good. I want to make them happy. I want to have a good time. I want them to, continue to. So instead of focusing on what got you there in the first place, which was your material, they start thinking, how can I make this person like me more? And we become buddies and pals and that type of thing. And so the focus shifts from work, which is what this relationship was built on in the first place, to now this person's my friend. And when that happens, if you're not careful and you become too friendly with this person and you start to slacken your duties as, I'm supposed to be looking out for this person's well-being because they're doing something for me. Mm-hmm. You run into situations where people get bitter, people get, they lose sight of what's important, and they drink too much, and they start becoming unprofessional. And the second you're unprofessional in this business, it's over. So for the management to come in and say, "Hey, we never want this person to work with that person again because they didn't take care of the headliner like they're supposed to." Now, granted, the headliner is supposed to take care of themselves as well. Obviously, that should go without saying. But if someone's taking you with them, it's your job to have their six. Watch their back. I don't think we should be drinking 13 beers at 4 in the evening when we got a show at 7.
And
that type of thing.
And you're right, because the headliner is an adult. But here's how I would have handled that situation or a situation similar. One, I'm not a huge drinker anyway. And so I'll have a few drinks with you if, dependent. I have my own way, like we all do. I have my own process that I have to go through on the day of show. So maybe I'll have a drink with you, but I'm not going to whatever. So even if the headliner wanted to go all out, you have to be able to maintain so you can make sure this person gets back from wherever you are, back to get prepared and be at the club or the arena or wherever at the appropriate time. The headliner can afford to go balls out.
That's what I was just about to say. I was saying
you can't.
He can afford as many mistakes as his management team has, the credit he's built, the reason why his name is on the pillar. Your name's not up there. They didn't play any of your clips before the show. So
you and I both have seen or worked with headliners who have just had the worst sets because they were too drunk or too high, or maybe they just weren't prepared, whatever the reason is. And you know what happens for the folks out there who are not in this business? Those headliners get booked to be back again the same time next year. Nothing. All right. So you, as the person who is supposed to be, for lack of a better way of putting it, holding their hand on these excursions, and you better be drunk. You better not screw up. You better not be drunk. You better not be high. You better be at the top of your game, even if this person is hitting a wall. It's just the way it goes. And so, again, this shit is sacred. Sacred, sacred, sacred. Just like for some of you folks out there, again, not to overuse it, who are not in this business or in the business, look at it the same way you look at your relationship with some of your best friends or some of your best coworkers. When you guys are at work and the boss is not around, you guys have conversations and so on and so forth, you are expecting that stuff to stay inside that circle. And it seems to me that too often it's getting outside of it. And for this opener to go to Gary Owen's wife and to tell this secret, I was just blown away by it. This is a sacred thing we do, man. I know it doesn't look like it from the outside to you folks who don't know, but it's just a sacred thing.
Well, even that, I don't know what his relationship is to Gary Owen's wife. I don't know if they're close or not. It would be one thing if he had known her before Gary had ever seen him do comedy and they worked together. If they had a bond, I could understand him being like, yo, look, while we were on the road, Gary did X, Y, and Z because he had a bond with her previous. I don't know that to be the case. I don't think that's the case, but that would be the only way I would ever excuse him going and saying anything to her about what they did while they were out on the road, because his number one obligation is to protect Gary Owen. That's your job is to protect your headliner. If they're taking you somewhere, it's your job to make sure that they don't do anything that's going to harm themselves, you, and your future trips with them on the road. Like, you're supposed to protect that spot as much as you can, as best you can, for as long as you can, until you can move on and do something else. People don't understand how hard it is to make it to the next level in comedy. Like, it's not like where if you work at, say I do X amount of spreadsheets in an hour, boss sees it, it's not like that. You can kill every time you step on stage and no one ever sees you. And so there's no way for you, the bookers who book these clubs aren't looking at how well you do on stage. That's not their focus. You send them a clip, you can be the greatest clip in the world, but you have to crack their rotation. And if they don't know you and you have no references, that's your ass. And, it's like that 52 weeks out of the year where you have to ask 52 different places to bump someone else who they've hired before in order for you to get that spot. And if you don't have somebody to take you with them and, show you off the clubs you would never be able to get into by yourself.
Yeah.
It just, the amount of time that you spend in that middle level can last a very, very long time if you don't have somebody who helps you. And comedy is like that, where you don't get better unless somebody who's better than you helps you. It's not like a skill you can train by yourself. You have to have somebody better than you. You have to have a mentor in order to be. None of the people that are famous for doing stand-up got there because they just figured it out by themselves.
Well, and here's the other thing. When you talk about having someone to help you, having a mentor, if you're doing this shit the way you're supposed to, and you're taking the advice from your mentor, at a certain point, you will surpass your mentor in some facet of this business. Now it is your job to understand, I need to find the next mentor. You don't find, okay. And unless you're a jackass, you're not going to say, I'm better than him and, dance on that person's career grave or anything like that. You understand where you are and where you got to, and you're thankful to that mentor. Now it's time to find who's the next person, and then who's the next person, and if you're lucky enough, you'll find those people. But you're right, man. It is so hard to find anyone who will, because it's not even just about how funny you are. It's about how do you handle the green room. And to the point you made earlier, what type of relationship do you guys have? I would love to say that every guy or girl who's a headliner takes out someone that they think is funny or they see something in. But a lot of times it's, how well do we gel? Do I want to go see movies with this person when we're not? Do I want to play poker with this person? For a lot of these comics, do I want to play video games and whatever else we do? When it's a lot of that. And if you can't mesh with those people on that accord, no matter how funny, as you said, you may have a little bit of a hard time getting someone to take you on the road. And I will say this for the up and coming comics who are watching, and that's okay too. Your career path will not always be based on someone taking you on the road, so don't get discouraged by that.
Yeah, someone taking you on the road is the easiest way for you to make it to the next level, where you get to expose to places where normally by yourself, it takes a lot longer because word of mouth spreads. If you don't ever travel to do stand up, every time you work with a touring headliner and you do a good job, most of the time they remember. Yeah. Unless they don't watch your set at all, if they don't show up until it's their time to perform, which there are a few, headliners who only show up when it's their time to do. They're not here for anybody else. They're here to do what they do. And, that's their thing. Mm-hmm. I worked with a couple guys like that. But the beauty of this particular business is that most of the time, when you're trying to make it to the next level, there are people who are excited to see you get there and that want to help you.
Yeah.
I've met dozens of comics like that who are like, hey, if you ever need a reference, if anytime I'm in town, just let me know and I'll put you on my show if you're not working, just that type of thing. So for him to go and burn the bridge of future relationships with other comics by being a snitch, if you will, on Gary Owen, to me, it just, that's comedy 101 when things not to do is to try and burn the headliner after they release you for whatever reason.
Yeah, I 100% bad business. I want to touch on something you said before, and I don't know what some of our viewers would think. And you guys share some of your comments with us, questions or just things you agree with or don't agree with, but be polite, please, so that we can actually let it be in the thread. And again, like I was saying at the top of the show, I try to get back and comment whether I agree or disagree with these, but right there in the comments. I've had people that I was close to and I knew one before the other, and the other was out here doing his or her thing. I still never said anything. I would wonder, why are you telling me this? Because you know my relationship with your spouse, or I'm just like looking off the other way when stuff is happening. But what I wasn't going to do was take this information and go back to the person I had a relationship with before. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't want to see the hurt on that other person's face. Another thing was my mother kind of taught me this based on her own experience. She went and told a girlfriend of hers she had at the time that her husband was cheating and even tried to hit on my mother. And that blew up in my mom's face, and those two ended up staying together anyway, and my mother's relationship was never right with that woman again. So couple of the different reasons I've never done it at all, even in my personal life. So I definitely wouldn't see it as this is going to be a great thing for me to do in my professional life. Going back to what I said before, you can only hurt yourself. with this information? Even if these two people end up getting divorced as Gary and his wife did, how does this help you in the long run, you knucklehead? I don't know where the guy is now or where he isn't, but Gary refers to him being, he's probably at your local Starbucks right now someplace, serving coffee. And he may very well be. I don't know, but it didn't hurt you. I'm sure it didn't help you.
It's, it's unfortunate that he wouldn't see the bigger picture of, how is this going to affect me going forward? It's one thing that if Gary fired him because they had beef or Gary stole his jokes and he runs off and tells him and he's like, whatever. Mm-hmm. But that didn't seem to be the reason why they fell out. So for him to go off and just, again, people are going to talk, man, and you have to, your reputation it takes a long time to build and it can be destroyed very, very quickly. And by doing some silliness like running and telling his wife whatever he told him, that it's lighting matches to your career for reasons unknown. There was no benefit to it whatsoever. There wasn't going to be somebody who's like, oh, he did the right thing by witnessing these things happen and then waiting till he fell out to, you know what I mean? Like there's no positive to you doing that.
The only thing I can imagine is that this dude thought that Gary Owen's wife was going to give him some, it's some type of revenge plot. That's the only time you see a guy go run to somebody's woman. I saw Earl mess around with Monique last night. That's it. Only because you hoping this woman is going to turn. Ladies out there, for you, if you don't know, that is one of the weakest games that any man can have, is to come to you and tell you what your man is doing. And he's only telling you because he hopes he gets you to drop them panties. That's the only reason. He's not trying to be your brother. He's not trying to be your play cousin. Y'all not going to go shopping. He tried to get in them draws. That's
he's trying to get out the friend zone. Is that what it is?
Yeah. And chances are he's been winking at you the whole time trying to get out the friend zone. And this is the first time he's got in his heart, some real information so I can get them panties dropping.
Oh, are you crying? Here, use my hanky. You got a handkerchief for the first time ever. You've never seen.
Where the accent come from? Ray never sound English.
When you have a handkerchief, you gotta have an accent.
Ray ain't never sound English ever. Now you sound like you from South London.
Madam, I love your tears. Use my hanky. While your husband is cheating on you.
He just dabs you.
And then he tells you you can keep.
You want to come by my apartment for a spot of tea? Oh no, sorry. Come by my flat for a spot of tea. You look around, all of a sudden you stand on cobblestone road.
It's raining.
How did you do this? How did you do this, Ray?
What is all?
No,
horse and carriage going down the street.
Like I said, folks, I'm a fan of a few of his podcasts that he's had. Shay Shay's done a few of his interviews. So Steve Stott one is still by far my favorite one. The Gary Owen is a pretty good one. There's a couple others I can't think off the top of my head, but I look at these things and try to get some information. That's why I look at them sometimes, depending on who the guest. And I was sitting here working, and I had work on one screen, and I had that interview on the other, and it gave me a different insight to Gary, to be honest with you. I was like, okay, I kind of, and I listened to a couple of other interviews. I heard him on Kevin Hart's podcast, and I was like, okay, I kind of dig this dude. And then listen to this, I dig this dude. And then when I heard this part about the opener who tried to snitch on him, again, not to say Gary was right, and Gary doesn't play like he's right in the interview. To me, the only thing I took from it, what happened to how sacred this business is and these relationships are supposed to be, and the green room is supposed to be. Like Dave Chappelle put it best, and I said this before on our pod. He says, we have some of the craziest conversations in the fucking green room about everything, race, female and males and gay and straight and politics and poor and rich and Gary, Dave says, yeah, then a comic will go out and tell these jokes and you guys are laughing your asses off, but we're in the back like, no, that motherfucker really means that shit. It's just, you guys just don't know. And you don't know because you're not supposed to know. Because these conversations are private. These moments are private. And it just drives me crazy. And it drove me crazy with what Kevin Hart's guy did to him as well. If you're supposed to be his boy, then be his boy. Or go do something else. Find something else to do for work.
It's once a snake, always a snake. And that's how I look at it. You know, this guy was going to be a snake because the opportunity for a snake presented itself.
Yeah.
And, you know, he deal with snakes too. That, you know, it wouldn't matter if it was, it wouldn't matter if it was Gary Owen or someone else in his life. You know, that's the type of guy he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate that in our business that green room is sacred. What happens, what goes on in the green room, that is for the people in that green room. You are supposed to go out and talk about that. I have seen very famous people do things in green rooms that I would never tell anybody.
Yeah.
Just because if you have the privilege of being in that room, you have to understand what that privilege means.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the space for the person who has attracted all these other people. That's their space. It's their home away from home. And whatever happens in there, you don't let that out. It's just all future comics who watch this, please know that if you ever go on road with someone, or even if you're at your home club and you get to spend time in the green room with a headliner from somewhere else, whatever happens in there, that stays between y'all. You don't go run and tell, obviously, unless it's, you know, something illegal that will get you caught up in some mess. Like, that would be the only time where I'd be like, yo, I'm not down with that. And then you know, but as far as,
Deon, let me just, so we don't, if whatever happening that is illegal is harming another human being, you go tell.
Right.
If it's some other stuff that's illegal that may be happening, just excuse yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's some other things under that headline that can fall underneath that.
There was I was actually working at the comedy club. It was probably my third or fourth year in stand-up, and very famous headliner who's been on multiple TV shows. He had the bathroom sealed off. He had a security guard standing in front of the bathroom, and I had to go in there and change the toilet paper and all that. So I tell the security, hey, I got to go change the toilet paper. And he's like, all right. So he lets me in, and the headliner's in there putting stuff up his nose that's on the counter. And I said to him, you know, I had just cleaned that, so you should be good. And he laughed because it was funny. And I didn't say anything about it, but I was like, bro, what are you, like, this isn't the place you should be doing that. I work here, and I'm trying to tell you, I had just cleaned this, but normally find somewhere else to snort your cocaine. You don't do it in the comedy club bathroom.
So if someone is being harmed, go get help. If something else is happening, just excuse yourself and mind your business. You never saw anything. You wasn't here. You hear nothing. You see nothing, and go about your business. Yeah,
because it's not your business to tell. You know, if no one's being harmed, it's button that lip, man.
I'm so old school. I still use the word snitch, man. Stop snitching. Like, I mean, even, again, unless someone is being, like all these people who just want to be famous and I just want to get out here and get my 10 minutes of fame. Let me tell you what I saw at some of these parties. Let me show you. Mind your business. Stop snitching on everybody, man. Stop snitching. And my mother taught me to never say never, because never is a long time. I don't think I will ever do an interview with Vlad for Vlad TV. Because if you sit back and you watch it, and there's only a few people who do a good job of being on it without snitching. Aries does a great job of being a guest on there.
He don't ever ask Aries anything to snitch on.
D.L. Hughley is another one. But for the multitudes, he's only bringing you on there to ask you questions to lead you into snitching on someone or on yourself. And how people keep falling into it. It's like watching 48 Hours and trying to wonder why these people are in the box with the cops and no one ever asked for a lawyer.
Look, to be fair, it is not Vlad's fault that those people are idiots.
It's not his fault. I'm just saying.
If he tricked one person and he tricked another person, and then we done see them trick 15 people, and you still go on there and you get tricked, that ain't Vlad's fault, bro.
No. I'm not blaming Vlad. What I'm saying is,
I'm just saying, like, Vlad gonna do what Vlad gonna do, and if you dumb enough to walk over there, like, want me to tell everything? I'll tell everything.
It's like going to Shannon's Club Shay Shay. I'm only drinking water. All right, I'm not coming on here drinking any of this liquor, because I'm gonna tell you something. Someone gave me a bottle of Shannon Sharpe's, and it's very good, by the way, very good. I wish he would find someone who would distribute it at the stores. You got to order it online if you want it, but I do recommend it. It's really good. It comes in a great wooden box and everything. I have it in there in my bar. But I'm gonna tell you something. It's smooth, but boy, it packs a punch. So I am not surprised that anybody who goes on there and takes more than 2 sips of that shit is spilling all their guts when they're on that show.
I'm autistic and I don't read good.
I'm sitting there watching.
I asked you about baseball.
Put that glass down. Stop drinking. You're telling all your business. So no, I'm not blaming Vlad. I'm just saying I'm not going in there because Vlad is very good at his job. And he's going to ask the right questions if he's trying to get something out of you. And if you're not very, very sharp on that particular day, you're about to tell everything, bro. And the fans are watching.
Yeah, certain things you got to hit them with the no comment. And then certain things you should never speak on anyway. Like if you have done something that you shouldn't have done, if you were involved in something it's not, why would you go on there and talk to him about it? He ain't even in the room. That's how I know it's a setup. Y'all do that interview to it. He's on a computer screen in a whole different area. To me, I've seen enough TV shows that every time the man on the computer screen, he's either the police or he done set the bomb. So it's one of them two. They go in there and they talk to that talking computer screen head and get all the secrets, and then the next thing you know, we gotta go to court tomorrow.
It's like I said, bro. I'm from Detroit. I grew up. I got family who have not always made their money of the best of ways, and I've been schooled by some of the best. But you're not. I'm not. No. The first thing I ask you, if you're asking me, when you writing the book, what chapter are you on? Why you asking me so many questions? Don't worry about how my day is doing. People just ask me all the time, how come you don't smile more? Because I'm not to be played with. That's just the response that you.
Sound like something Mr. T would say.
I'm from Detroit, man. Why are you worried about how much I smile? Because where I'm from, people who walk around smiling all the time are the people who get fucking hit upside the head and get your wallet or your purse taken. If you're lucky, that's all that happens to you. So no, don't ask me to smile. Get out my face. Keep it moving.
Yeah, you gotta learn to. What's that song? Know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Anytime there's a talking head on the computer screen, shut up. Shut up.
And I don't care what anybody says. The feds are paying agents to watch Vlad TV. Stop doing it. Stop snitching on yourself. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that, man. That Gary Owen thing. That part of the interview I kind of said, You opener? The dude, you put money in his pocket? And to your point that you were making earlier as well, you and I talk about this all the time. Whichever one of us fucking makes it first, we're taking the other with. Because we are brothers and we've been doing this together for a long time and we trust each other. So like I have my few people that I want to ride with me when I'm able to, make that move. August O'Neill and, one or two other folks out there. But this is stuff that stays in the back of my mind 100% at all times as I make my climb up this fucking ladder, bro.
You never know who you can help and when you can help them. And sometimes the person you can help the most is yourself. And by building relationships with people and keeping your mouth shut when it don't need to be open, goes a long way. Burning bridges is never a good idea. And this guy had nothing to gain from it and everything to lose, because it's not going to hurt Gary Owen any more than what it was already going to hurt him. You know, he already had to deal with divorcing his wife. So you go running off and telling her, he was already going to have to deal with that. Now you're making it so that any future interaction with anybody that is friends with him, they're going to know about you, because he's going to make sure that, hey, I don't ever rock with this guy ever again. Make sure none of my people rock with this guy again, so on and so forth. So any of those connections that you could have had from just keeping your mouth shut are now cut off to you forever.
Yeah.
And it's a silly thing to do when you don't have anything to gain from it. So yeah, keep that stuff sacred, man, because at the end of the day, protecting other people is protecting yourself.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Again, if it's illegal, any human being is being harmed, or dogs in the case of some politicians.
Why she put that in the book? Was she talking to Vlad? That was a Vlad question. Tell me about that time you murdered that dog.
Who is proud enough to put this in a book that you murdered a puppy, bro?
She was like, well, it had bit 3 people earlier in the day, and so I felt it. Did you hear? Did you hear her?
Yes.
So the reasons why she said she murdered it. First of all, the dog was 3. He was not a puppy. He was 3 years old.
That's not what the book said.
Ma'am.
Between that and I stared down Kim Jong-un, but then wait a minute, I never met him. Just anyway, I don't.
Yeah, once I found out I said that in the book, I had them take that out because I don't ever talk about who I meet and where I met them. Okay. What's the point of this book, ma'am? What are we listening to? What are we reading?
Sorry, we sidetracked you guys for a hot minute. This Kristi Noem governor, I was North Dakota, South Dakota, or something.
One of the Dakotas
shot a puppy in one of the Dakotas, and wasn't satisfied with shooting the puppy. Let me go get this goat while I got the gun out and loaded. And shoot, killed this goat. Well, it's
like that's a story you tell after your career, not while you're doing it.
I'm just like, who's in your camp?
She was the front runner for his VP. Now he can't touch her.
Yeah. Speaking of politics, we wanted to get in this as well. Donald Trump is he's a lot of different things. He's absolutely disgusting, bro. With all the trials, and it looks like the one in Florida is not going to happen. The one with the document case is not going to happen. We do have the one in New York that's dealing with the money that he paid to Stormy through Michael Cohen. That has been so entertaining to hear how this trial has gone. What I did not expect, and I didn't expect it because we've all been talking about it. If you've been paying any attention at all to politics and Donald Trump, one of the things a lot of people, whether you are a novice or not, people cannot get out of their minds is some of the things that Donald Trump has said about his daughter. I'm going to paraphrase here just a little bit because I don't have the quote right up in front of me. But the man had his daughter Ivanka standing next to him and made the statement of how beautiful she was. And if I wasn't married and she wasn't my daughter, I would date her. All right. I don't know how a father gets from point A to point B to make that statement. But during the testimony of Stormy Daniels, she is quoted as saying while she's on the stand that Donald told her, "You remind me of my daughter. You're blonde and you're beautiful." She goes into the bathroom, comes back out, and this man is in a t-shirt and boxers trying to seduce her, if you will, if that's something Donald Trump could even do. I know men who are fathers of daughters. I've known men who were fathers of daughters who they were at a strip club and saw a dancer that reminded them of their daughter, whether it be face or whatever, and said, "I got to get the hell out of here." How, unless there is something seriously wrong with you, do you say something like that to a woman and then have sex with her right afterwards? That's completely disgusting. Completely disgusting.
Well, he paid for it, so that's why he did it, because he don't like to waste his money. To me, when that came out, the first time I heard it, I go, that should have been it. that should have been a disqualifier from the presidency before he even became president, because that came out before he even won the first time he ran.
Yep.
So for him to not only somehow make it out of that to continue to run the race, but to win and then have it come back up in court. And, you know, there are people still out there who are like, I don't care about that, I'll vote for him. To me, just screams of the dire straits we are in as a country. This is one of our candidates, and he openly telling us that if his daughter wasn't his daughter, he would, like, I can't fathom why we would want anyone in a leadership position who has that type of mindset. To me, that just screams untrustworthy, degenerate, just bad decision maker. That's a bad decision to say out loud, let alone think, but to say out loud that if she wasn't my daughter, I would sleep with her. Like, are you?
Yeah, just think about having a coworker or having a buddy, a neighbor, and you guys are having a barbecue in your backyard, and this neighbor happens to have a beautiful daughter, and he's not the president. He's just Bob, who lives next door, and he makes that statement about his daughter. Would you trust this man around? If you don't ask him to leave, you at minimum never invite him over again, and you wouldn't trust him around your daughter or around your wife. I don't understand it, and from the political sense of it, and you're right, Deon, you have these rabid religious zealots who have twisted themselves into knots to keep voting for this guy because he's done things for us like get the Supreme Court in place to get rid of abortion on the federal level, and some of these other things that they want to put in place. And now you have stuff like this, and you're going to twist yourself in the knots to vote for this man again. I always look at it, and this is the way they used to look at politicians. Who would you want to have a coffee with? Who would you want to have a beer with? Who would you want to have dinner with? Who is more like the everyday person that you would want to hang out with? Because that's going to be the person you want to do business with. That's the person you would put in charge of running your country, so on and so forth. Who does Donald Trump remind you of anybody that you would want to hang out with on any level at all? Especially when you take that this man would make a statement like that and then turn around and have sex with the woman who reminds him of his daughter.
Yeah, when you put it in that terms, you know, I never thought of it that way as to, you know, look at it as if he wasn't the president, if he was just some next door neighbor or something, you know. If my next door neighbor had said that to me, I would make it very clear in the moment, hey, you are to never set foot on my property again. You are, as a matter of fact, if I catch you looking over here, we gonna have some problems. Don't ever bring your weird ass over to my house, and don't ever say that around me in my vicinity, because that's not acceptable. It's it's extremely disturbing. And then you couple that with his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and it really makes me begin to wonder if any of those allegations are true. Because to have the mindset to be able to look at your child, that means he's been with her entire life. He's seen her from, you know, not being able to speak all the way up to, you know, to becoming, you know, who she is as a person, and to still be able to see her sexually, to me, just speaks of a depravity of a level that should never hold office of the presidency, let alone PTA me. I wouldn't let him, I say on stage all the time, I wouldn't let him babysit my dog. I don't even have a dog.
add this part in. And folks, again, comments, please leave us your comments. How long have you looked at her this way? How long have you been looking? Has this been her since she was born, since she was 3, since she was 7, 16? At what age did you start looking at your own daughter this way?
And she's beautiful, yeah.
And that has to be so ingrained in your mind to the point that you would, I don't know if it's arrogance or what it is, that you would think that you could just say it to the whole world. Look how beautiful she is. If she wasn't my daughter and I wasn't married, I would date her.
And I wasn't married. I mean, what is your wife supposed to say to that statement when you go on national television and tell the entire world, my daughter's so hot, if she wasn't my daughter and I wasn't married, I'd like, what? Yeah. And she's sitting right next to you. Talk about, and again, speaking of depravity, like, no one in that family came out and said, yo, Pops, that was wrong. You crossed the line. You need to walk that back. Oh, that's just Donald being Donald. Like, what? Yeah. No, that's not cool, y'all. And so for me, that's why politics aside, I've always known Donald Trump to be a foolish individual. Just his decision-making skills are very subpar, if I'm being polite. He's not good at making decisions. That being said, how people can, as you said earlier, twist themselves up into knots to assuage that major character flaw, that's a huge deficiency and critical thinking skills and decision making, to not be able to look at your child and turn that off, if that's even a thing. I don't have children, so I don't know if you can look at, like, I don't know if you can look at your daughter that way. I would imagine that for 99.999% of people, that's not the case. But the fact that he has openly admitted it, not once, but now at the trial, where, you know, he didn't stand up and say, I never said that, to me, just how can that be okay? Like, how can you be okay picking that guy to represent your thoughts and ideals out to the rest of the world? To me, I don't understand it.
And I'm with you. And we talk about this a lot. You're a socialist. I'm a conservative. And I, in the past, have voted Republican more than Democrat. And I don't have a problem telling people that. If I wanted to vote for a person, and a lot of times, and we talked about this before, often, people are voting with their wallets. They're voting with their pocketbooks. They're voting for what makes them happy in their four walls that they live in with their family. What's going to be good for me. Even if Donald Trump was the type of candidate that was doing that, or if he was Ronald Reagan or Bush Sr., or whatever Republican you want to think about, or hell, Barack Obama, who I voted for both times. If Barack said that about either one of his daughters, do you know, not only would it be absolutely broadcast all over everywhere, I believe, I would be disgusted with myself that I ever supported this man. And to your question, I know, you don't have it. Absolutely not. That is not a regular thing for a father to say anything close to that about his daughter, and for it to be okay. Absolutely not. This is the only thing I can put next to this is, and we've seen this before, and I've talked to friends of mine who have daughters, and we've talked about this over and over and over, because you'll see it pop up every once in a while. The buddy that you had who ends up dating the daughter of yours. And the first thing we all say when we talk about it is that, motherfucker, how long have you been having your eye on my daughter? We've been friends for years, and now you're dating her? How long have you been wanting to date my daughter? When did you first put your eye on her? And so that's what I think about with Trump. When you first put your own eye on your own child, to be able to verbalize that you feel that way about it, it's just disgusting. And again, in the comments, I know I dare anyone to agree with what he said, but I do want to still hear from people who are watching, if you're watching this part of the pod, what you think about this. The man is he just finds a new level to get low.
If anyone else had said this, but think of any politician prior to him. So Hillary, John Kerry, both Bushes, Clinton, the guy who popped out of the tank looking like a goofball. What was his name? Ralph Nader. Him.
Howard
Gerald
Dean,
Ford. Howard
Nixon, anybody.
You know, Howard Dean lost because he went, yeah.
You know me pretty good at impersonations. I know you can do that better. That was
Yeah,
that was a higher pitch yeah. It was.
I don't want to blow your speakers out.
And I think he lost because people thought we can't turn the country over to a man. He seems like his emotions are not intact.
Yeah, he was way too excited.
But now you got this dude. Anyway, I don't want to get to who people are voting for. I want to stick to just as a man, as a father. How do you look at your daughter this way, and how do people look at that? Again, we've had the quotes. D.L. Hughley put it up. Folks out there who don't follow him, go check him out on IG. A few days ago, he put up a clip where there were 5 or 6 different times that Howard said something kind of sexualizing his daughter. And what we keep referring to is just one of the times that he did. You can throw on top of that now the testimony of Stormy Daniels, where he says, you kind of remind me of my daughter. You're blonde and you're beautiful. And then I'm out here in my drawers and a T-shirt waiting to have sex with you.
How do you excuse that? Honestly, when it comes to voting with your wallet, as you say, people do. How do you put that before this type of behavior? Because to me, no matter what policy I'm slanging, if this is how you're acting, I know this is going to come back to bite me at some point. You can't sustain this level of depravity and civilized society and get positive results over and over and over again. Like eventually, Humpty Dumpty falls off the wall. And so having heard him not once, but twice say this, moving forward, how do you go into that poll booth and say, this is the guy I want in charge of the country because he's going to give me X, Y, and Z when it comes to my financial portfolio, and I don't care that he wants to bang his own child. Do you not understand that the thought process of wanting to bang your own child is bad? Therefore, if he's capable of having that thought, reiterating that thought, living that thought, because he did have sex with someone who reminded him of his daughter. So which leads me to believe that he was thinking about her. Because why else would you bring someone else up when you're about to have sex with somebody?
It leads me to think that you were thinking about Ivanka the moment you set eyes on fucking Stormy Daniels at that golf tournament.
So, again, knowing that that's his thought process, that he is not able to see his own daughter as his daughter, but sees her as, I would love to get my hands on her, if only. For him to be able to make that thought just tells me that his ability to make good decisions it's not there. And so why would again, you can get the policy you want from someone else. You might have to wait another 2 years, 4 years, whatever the election cycle is. But if you see that level of poor judgment, multiply that by having to make decisions that affect the rest of the world. Yeah. And you saw with our standing in the world dropped off. There are some things he did that people like, and there are some things that he did that people hate. But to me, it just boils down to who you are as a person. And can I rock with you? My desires aside. So he can't do anything for me. But I wouldn't hang out with him. I wouldn't. Like if he said that, he would never come over to my house. He's not somebody that I want representing me. And I think people forget that that's what the president is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a representation of the best of us. And putting him in office, policy aside, is a terrible idea.
And this goes beyond policy. And that's what I was saying. I don't care if the policies were straight on what I believe in and what I'm looking for, whether it be abortion, whether it be the military, whether it be our place in the world, whether it be Ukraine, whatever it was, he could line up for me perfectly. And it'd be, what did you just say he said? Or what did I just hear him say? Oh, I don't care. I don't care who he's running against. I'm voting for that person. This trumps everything for me. This is such an eye-opening. No pun intended. This is such an eye-opening thing. This is such an eye-opening. This is such a quick snapshot view of your character.
Yeah, character
of who you are, and like you said, policies aside, who you are as a person. Everything else to me that comes out of your mouth doesn't even matter, because this is what I heard. You could be the next door neighbor. Take it back to the example I was using. You could have just saved, my dog from getting hit by a car. But bro, I just heard you say, look how beautiful she is. And if I wasn't married and she wasn't my daughter, I would date her. I can't rock with you. And don't be around my kids either, because you're probably some kind of.
People would say, well, then if you drop one drop of chocolate milk into a cup of regular milk, does it turn the whole milk chocolate? And I'm like, no, but if you're allergic to chocolate milk and then you drink that chocolate, that milk that has chocolate milk in it, and all of a sudden something happens, so it only takes one thing to screw up the entire system. And the idea that he has this thought process just tells me that given enough time, he will find a way to make a bad decision, because that's just who he is as a person. His character is bad decision making, and it's going to reflect poorly on us in the long run. And you can see that he's dragging us through. He called the guy on the phone and said, yo, man, find me what I need to win. That should have disqualified him.
I was going to say, I would take it another step and not even say bad decision making. When you're talking about, we'll use that example, but we're talking about with Ivanka as well, and not that they're the same thing. I don't think it's bad decision making. This dude's desire to have whatever it is that he wants, everything else doesn't matter.
Well, and that's a choice that he's making. He's choosing what he desires over everything else. And, to me, that's the prime example of people you don't want in charge of things. Mm-hmm. Because if you aren't capable of making a rational, logical choice between this is what's good for me right now and in the future, as opposed to, I feel like getting my rocks off, so I want to go. Like, if you're one of those people who can't decide, you know what, I got to deny myself this pleasure that I want right now because it won't benefit me in the long run. If you're one of those, I don't want you in charge of anything important. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying. And he showed us he wasn't qualified to be in charge of anything important.
Yeah.
By failing every business that he was in charge of. Every single one of them that he was in charge of, in control of, final say of, they all failed. What does that tell you? He's a bad decision maker. That when it's left up to only him, and that's how he keeps his circle. Is at the final, he has the final say so. And I love this tactic where he tries to pass the blame off to his kids. They were running it. I was off over here doing the apprentice. Like, that's not how you've ever ran any of your businesses.
And all of that is coming out in court now. You're right.
Yeah, it's like, so don't even try to act like you are letting people make decisions on your behalf, because we know that's not who you are.
He was signing the checks to Michael Cohen. The checks, the money that I had nothing to do with, that was all Michael Cohen. He was signing them himself because he was having them mailed from New York to DC so he could sign them, and then having them FedEx back to Trump headquarters. So to your point, you're in the middle of all of this. You want to pretend like, I didn't see nothing, I hear nothing. This was all I have. You are in and everyone who gets on that witness stand has called you in so many different ways a micromanager. You're in the middle of everything.
And just look at all the people that the second he no longer has a use for, they're the worst people of all time. The second Michael Cohen wasn't useful to him anymore, Michael Cohen is all of a sudden a liar, a degenerate, but he was your buddy for X number of years. You used him for everything. So don't tell me, again, he's showing me who he is and trying to tell me that he's not that person. And I just don't understand how there's 75 million people who don't see what I see, how I see it. They can see him lie to their faces and fall for it. Yeah. To me, it's like, are we hearing the same thing? Are we seeing the same thing? then how are we getting two different outcomes? How can you hear him say, yeah, if she wasn't my daughter, I'd sleep with her, and then rationalize, this is the man that I want in charge of our military secrets, our, just everything. To me, I look at our fellow citizens, bro, and I go, how are you hearing what I'm hearing and not getting how are you not getting the feeling that I'm getting?
Yeah, and I'm with you on this one, on this feeling at this point with this, because again, this is something like people were.
It's not political for me.
No, it was, people when he was in office the first time. You see the relationship between Melania and Ivanka. It seems like they battle, like there might be some jealousy there, and you could, initially kind of blow that off a little bit, like, well, that's his stepmother and so on and so forth, and that's his daughter, and so sometimes you have that and blah 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 blah. But when you start to add everything else into the mix, and if she wasn't my daughter and this, and then add this in, not that I want to be some type of person who sits back and tries to figure out people from 3,000 miles away, but it just puts a different light on that entire family. And I never thought I would have to say this about any woman who grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth. But I kind of feel bad for Ivanka for what for where my mind goes to what else he might have said when no one was listening. To, did he ever try to do anything to this young lady? To the fact that he would say something like that in front of the entire world with her standing right there shoulder to shoulder and embarrass her in that way. It's just, and to the point that she hears what he just said or what Stormy just said, that makes her its way to Ivanka, and she gets to hear what my father said that about, and then had to say, so I kind of feel sorry for her at this point in this whole thing.
Well, let me pump your brakes on that point, because she's had all the authority and power to speak out against it and, to stop this man from being more depraved than he is. And she's let it slide. So I'm not looking at her as some type of victim at this point. Now, I don't know what he said and did to her in her childhood. And there's pictures where it's very suspect of, the relationship he has with her and just how inappropriate it looks from this distance, let alone someone who's close to the family and knows what he says behind closed doors. But she has protected him in ways that if he did do something to her, I would imagine she wouldn't protect him. And for me, that's the only thing that's keeping me from being in the same space as you are, is because I'm sure if she was really bothered by what had happened to her, she would have done something about it by now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I can't agree with that part. I can't agree with that part just because I don't know what's in her head. I don't know what that world was like for her. You and I and the rest of us get to see this man get away with almost everything his entire career. He's gotten away, and for her to have lived through it, I'm just saying, because we're just guessing here, to see her actually be in that tower and see that this is what happens and how he gets away with everything and how he treated her when no one's looking, along with how I assume he treated her brothers, and so I just can't say she would have just automatically stepped up to the front and said, "I'm taking you down because of what you did to me." We just don't know what her upbringing was like with that man.
Well, what I'm saying is, I don't think anything has happened because of. If it did, I would imagine that the second she was away from him and allowed to speak her piece, she would be. I find it hard to believe that she would protect him, even though he's her dad, because that type of trauma and humiliation, to go through it, not once in the privacy of your own home, but then have it put out in the political and public spaces over and over again. I feel like that would trigger, enough is enough. I could be wrong, and everybody's different, but for me, I don't see her as a victim because of the shield she has provided. There has been ample opportunity for her to stop him from doing things that he shouldn't be doing, and she hasn't taken them. She was watching the January 6th thing and the tent with him. They were having a little party. So she's complicit in all this. She is a victim of him being a disgusting human being. Yeah. She didn't choose who her parents were, so that's not her fault. I will say that, but yeah, she ain't no victim.
Hey, appreciate you guys watching Not As Debatable. If you're just catching us for the first time, if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Throughout the show, you've seen our names. Try to do this right. You've seen our names come up between underneath our heads there with our IGs. Follow us there as well if you would like to do that. Also, it does help us. It helps the channel and it helps us individually as well. So please go ahead and do that. And go ahead and don't forget to go ahead and drop those comments. And if you love the show, share it. If you hate our show, share it. Go ahead and hit up with Rudy Gobert now. Rudy Gobert, the center and four-time now named Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA, I believe.
Three or four.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he got the fourth one. I think he just got it again this year. Decided to miss game 2 of the playoffs between his team and the Denver Nuggets. Luckily for him, his team still won, and his team being Minnesota. They still won, and I'm loving it. I can't wait for the game tonight. I'm hoping to see Denver lose again. But he decided to miss game 2 of the playoffs because the birth of his first child was happening, and he stayed back in Minnesota while they went and played in Denver. He took a lot of heat for it from a lot of different folks, from just podcasters to some rappers who are podcasters, to some athletes who are podcasters as well. And for a lot of them,
the podcasters.
Like, what's that?
So just podcasters.
yeah, just podcasters. But I wanted to make sure I broke it down so people knew it just weren't athletes that were talking about it. And he took a lot of criticism for missing that game. I know how I feel about it, Deon. Where do you stand on him missing a playoff game, game 2, to stay back to watch the birth of his first child?
I think this speaks to the priority of man. And so his number one priority is his family. And I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I think that, having a career where it requires you to be away from your family as much as it does. We're in the entertainment business. If we were working every week, we would be away from our families every weekend. And so we wouldn't get to see them. And your wife works during the day. So there's not a lot of time that you get to spend with her outside of the weekends that you're not working because she has a day job. So, how important a man's family is not for another man to question. And I will never question anybody who decides to spend more time with their family for whatever reason, outside of the politic excuse of, I'm stepping down because I want to spend more time with my family. We all know that means you got caught doing something you weren't supposed to do. That's the only time I will not tolerate.
That's never a real reason. That's never a real reason. That's
the only time I go, that motherfucker's lying. So, but I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's beautiful. It helps that they won. Because at the end of the day, you're only going to play basketball for 15, 16, at the most 23, 24 years. And I don't know how much longer LeBron's going to play, but there is a shelf life. And so what you can do in your career is that limited in time. Who knows how many kids he's going to have in the future. If anybody has a problem with him staying home, I think the argument should be he should have planned the birth of his children around the time he wasn't playing basketball. So he should have got her pregnant while the season was going on instead of in the off season when he got her pregnant. And now the baby's here.
I look at it from a couple of different ways. The competitor in me, and Deon knows this, and people who know me know this. I'm diehard. I am cut your throat to win, cut your throat to be fucking on top of the mountain, and I make no excuses for it. And I'll kick your little bloody stump body right off of the mountain because you're in my way where I'm trying to stand with my flag that I'm planting. I make no excuses about that. But then there's the other part of me that says, to your point, the man's family, and just now you made me think of this. I have friends and I've had friends who want to go out. Like, I'm very fortunate with my wife. There is no handcuffs. There is no where you're going, when you're going to be back. I don't want you. If I say, yo, me and the guys are taking a guys trip to Vegas, next weekend, she'll say, okay, be safe, that type of thing. And same thing for her. She wanted to take a trip with the ladies so people out there know it's not a one-sided thing. I'm like, go. There's been times she was going out with her girlfriends, and I'm like, hey, pack a bag. Because if you drink too much, don't drive home. Stay at your girlfriend's house, or if not, I'll come get you, that type of thing. So, but I know everyone doesn't live like that. And I have friends who live the opposite of how my wife and I exist. And they're like, bro, I really want to go, but I can't because, she be tripping. And my response is always the same. You do what you have to do to keep your home happy, bro. I don't have to live there. And so the other part of it when it comes to should Rudy have done this, again, the first thought is, no, man, you need to be in Denver hooping. It's the playoffs. Y'all need to make sure this happen. The other thing is, you know what? I don't have to live in Rudy's house. So if Rudy is with a woman who may make his life a hell because she wanted him there for the birth of that first child, then Rudy, damn it, your ass needs to be at home. So
I love how you blame Rudy's wife for him being at home. The competitor in me tell this bitch, I gotta go play basketball, but he gotta live with her. It's not Rudy wanting to be there for his kid. It's Rudy not wanting to get in trouble with his wife.
Bro, most men who are married or with a woman like that, your whole existence is trying not to get in trouble.
He's French. He was going to be there.
I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go to the French thing. You calling him soft because he's French? Are you saying if he was an American man from let's say, Baltimore, his ass would have been up there in Denver?
I'm just saying, I know a bunch of players who got multiple baby mamas don't know when they kids. But they showed up to play basketball.
They do. I wasn't trying to blame it on his wife, or I don't know if he's married to her or not. But I'm going to assume. I wasn't trying to blame it on his wife. I was just saying, bro, I don't have to live there. So you got to keep her happy, bro.
Yeah, I think a man having family priority over his career is fine. Whether his wife is okay with it or not, be damned. It's also the second round of the playoffs. It's one game. You already won the game that you absolutely needed to win in the first game. So in the grand scheme of his career, him missing that one game isn't going to hurt him any. So to me, it's a win-win situation because they got the dub without him, and he got to be there for his kid and make his wife happy, according to you.
Right. You're right. Rudy is very lucky because it all worked out. Yeah. But if Djokovic had a went off for like 60 points, Djokovic.
Jokic?
Jokic. I'm sorry, Jokic. What did I say? Jokic. I'm now mixing with tennis. If Jokic had a went off for 60 points, they'd been killing Rudy. They've been killing Rudy. The villagers would have been headed to Rudy's house in Minnesota up on the mountain with torches.
Right. So
throw him and the baby down. Throw him and the baby down, which he would have heard.
So as a competitor, if that's, I don't have a problem with people whose mindset goes there. I really don't, because, I think that's what generates progress is people who have that die hard, I have to win, I have to achieve. That's what moves us forward as a society, is people who don't take no for an answer, who don't, who prioritize whatever's important to them.
Who's this dude?
Oh,
who's this person? You ain't never said that to me when I was talking about my competitive spirit. You ain't never expressed that.
We're just talking about Jenga. This is Jenga's not important.
I hate Jenga. Fuck you. We ain't never talked about Jenga. Now I got to make sure this gets picked out. I need to be cursed. Ain't never heard me say that about no Jenga.
I'm just saying, I can appreciate one's competitive desire to achieve a goal they set for themselves. I'm not that type of person where, I don't ever care enough about one thing to let it rule my entire life. I could miss a show for the birth of my child. I could, now if it was the final show, that would be a different if it was the final game, I might have to tell Lou Jr., look, bruh, Daddy needed that ring. And his legacy was more important than the first day you got here. I'll be here for all the rest of them until my time's up. So you just gonna have to get over it. You wouldn't remember me there anyway. And who's watching those videos? Like, has anybody ever rewatched the birth of their kid? For what?
I was gonna tell you, that's what Junior gonna tell you too. I don't remember you even there. If you could have just not said nothing, been great. I'm heartbroken.
Hey, man, you came to my birth, and now we don't have a bigger house because your contract, you didn't have a championship ring attached to it. So
100%.
Yeah.
Now I got to go get state aid to go to college. Thanks a lot, Dad.
Poor Rudy can't win for losing.
Look, my thought process is still the same. For fellas who can't do what you want to do with your guys, don't make any excuses to us. We don't have to live there. You keep your home happy. That means you got to miss the game 2, or you can't go to Vegas, or hell, maybe you're just not allowed to look outside.
Close them blinds.
I know some dudes under some real constraints, bro, in that marriage, man.
Sorry, baby. Thought it was the mailman.
I'm not going to embarrass anybody, but when I was growing up, I saw some marriages, bro, and I was just like, I just knew sometimes I'm thankful, as my mother would say about, I was kind of an old soul. So I was able to see what I was seeing, able to bring it in, compute, and analyze it, a lot of different things in my life growing up. But I'm happy one of those things was people and their marriages. And I was like, there's absolutely no way I'm going to let my marriage be that marriage over there. Love those people, but there's no way I'm living like that as a husband, as a man. There's no way.
Yeah. A huge part of my thought process is the freedom to do what I want to do. And if there was ever a time where I had to jeopardize that for someone else, I don't know what I would do, because it's the most important thing to me is being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, how I want to do it. And if I was to be with somebody who made me check in, that would just make for a miserable existence that I will want to end as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to know your personnel. Like I said at the beginning of the show, you got to know what type of wife you got. That if she's okay with you missing the basketball, or if she's okay with you missing the birth of a child, then you go play basketball. But if she's not okay, I don't care what anybody from the team or podcast be damned. You go home and you be there, because, like you said, you have to live in that situation for the rest of your days, or however many days before she takes half your stuff and goes back to France.
Because you're supposed to do that. I hope everybody, when you get married, you have it in the back of your mind, I want this to be forever, especially if it's your first marriage. So your mindset should be, and Deon and I've had this conversation before.
Hold on. Anything after your first marriage, you shouldn't be expecting happily ever after. You should.
I apologize to all of our multiple married folks who are watching or listening to the podcast.
If you're on your fourth and fifth husband or wife, you better quit saying happily ever after.
I'm with you in terms of, if someone if you've done it, you probably shouldn't do it more than 2 times. Call it. First time you made a mistake. Second time you tried to correct it. It didn't happen. It may not just be for you.
Hey, if they end in divorce and not death, no, I'm sorry. You don't get to say happily ever after the first one. Because if you're divorcing 2, 3, 5, 6 people, come on, man. Who's going to those weddings? I'm not.
I've been to I was at a wedding once where we were taking bets on how long it was going to last at the reception. We're sitting there, and the marriage did not last. And this person's been married multiple times since then. Sometimes if you've been on the plane long enough, and I have no shame in admitting what I just admitted, because a lot of you out there have done the same thing. All right. So don't look at me with your shameful eyes. You can, if you know the person, if you know your friends, and you know this person well enough that they're marrying, you can kind of figure stuff out. And it's just an ugly thing to see someone get married more than twice. The first time I give you, okay, whether it be you were too young or whatever, you made a bad choice or they made a bad choice, it didn't work out. Second time, you want to take a shot at it. If you're given enough time between the first and the second, great. But after that, you should probably call it quits because either you just got bad luck or you making, as G.I. would say, you got bad decision making skills. So you just call it quits, man. These 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, no, unless you in it for the money.
I love doing shows and you talk to the audience and, who's been married? And you get a guy in the crowd. This is my second wife, my third wife. And you get into those stories. It's like, these guys just cannot see the forest for the trees. It's like, bro, it's you that is the cause for your demise in relationships. And I've always been of the belief that if it doesn't work the first time and you don't change dramatically afterward, then the second and third time are going to be eerily similar. So for all those people who want to, because I know a bunch of people who have remarried and they're in rocky spots right now and are just like, bro, you didn't learn anything from the first marriage. And this is the reason why the second one's not working or this third one's not working. It's because you keep being that same guy from the first one expecting different results.
That ain't it. That ain't just it. Or is this, I'm going to tell you, there's another side of this. You don't have to be the one to change. You need to change who you're picking, though. Because
that's what I'm saying. It's like you didn't do anything different after the first time ended. It's like you keep being the same guy who made the same stupid choice of picking that person who wasn't good for you, and now you're redoing it again. It's like, I can't feel sorry for you, bro.
If you want to be the same person, great. But you can't keep marrying the same type of person. If you want to be a selfish person, man or woman, and the world revolves around me, then you need to hire or marry someone who doesn't mind being your gaffer. All right. so that's what and for people who don't know what a gaffer is, that's the person who holds the mic over your head on the movie sets. All right. So if you are the star and need to be the star at all times, I always need the spotlight. You need to marry someone who's completely opposite and understands that and doesn't mind that. That's why you don't see a lot of Hollywood couples even make it. Because both of you motherfuckers think you're supposed to be the star. And I curse again. Both of y'all think y'all need to be the star, and both of you can't be the star. It's not possible.
You've cursed several times earlier, too, as well. So before you go and post this, make sure you go back and believe those.
I know the man who said the F word 3 times in a row last week is not trying
I will be the first to admit that I have a potty mouth. It's because I wasn't allowed to cuss as a kid. I'm sure if my parents let me.
Now you blamed it on your parents?
Yeah, it's 100% their fault that I speak the way that I do. They didn't allow me to do it when I was a child, so I made a vow, a promise, a determination that I was going to be there for the birth of my cursing journey, regardless of how many games I had to play.
What you are? So you gonna try to get me because you gonna blame it on his wife that he wasn't there to keep her happy, and here you go blaming your curses on your parents because there was just this whole buttload
big snake, big worm, big. I don't give a damn.
Put your hands up. Oh man, you think you're a man with that? I think you're man without it.
I tell you, I could not wait to get out of the house and start my cussing journey. Ooh.
All those spiders on his head.
Tell me what I can't say. I'll show you.
Oh my God. You talk about high-pitched screams. That scream from Chris Tucker when they see them drive by shooters coming, they start blasting. Oh, drive by. Such a great movie.
They're laying in the back of the bed of that truck. Shut up. They come.
We're going to do it together to count of 3.
They come out. Mama, I love you, Craig. Shut up. Classic.
I don't know who you think you're talking to, partner. But I cut your bleeps off and hand them to you. Well, I'm just saying. For anybody out there who's been under a rock for the last 50 million years, that was we quoting Friday, one of both of our favorite movies. Hopefully, one of yours too, man. That movie is. Before we get out of here, I do want to share the story that Deon and I talked about before, but I just want to bring it up real quick. In terms of as a creative, you don't know what's going to be the thing. Deon and I talk about this all the time. We don't know what's going to be the thing that's going to make us pop. I don't know what joke he may tell one night, joke I tell. We don't know this podcast. We do all of it because we love it. And the story that Faison Love, and for people who don't know, Faison Love is a stand-up comedian actor. He plays Big Worm in Friday. The story he shares about doing Friday, and even while they're on set, they're thinking, I don't know about this movie. And then they go to the premiere of it. I believe it was he and Chris Tucker went, and they're sitting there watching it, and they're still like, I don't want to sit because they think the audience is going to be upset. And so they start leaving and walking down the hall and hear the crowd, some type of noise erupting behind them. They think these people are upset. So they take off running. The audience is running behind them. These guys are trying to get the hell out of there because they think this is going to be a problem for them. Come to find out, these people love the movie. Fast forward to 2024, and it's just a cult classic. You just don't know what's going to think. Look at Chris Tucker's career from that. He blew up so big, he couldn't come back to do Friday 2 because I need more money to come back and do it. And then he did all the things he's done since. But at Faison, not to knock what he's done some things too, some more movies, and his career kind of, I think, took off a little bit for him as well. But you just never know what's going to be the thing that makes you pop as a creative, man. The whole cliche, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's true. But if you're doing what you love and you're really putting your hard work behind it, you don't know where that thing can take you to one day. Maybe nowhere, maybe everywhere. Who knows?
I think that if the focus is always on putting out the best of what you can do at your current level, whatever level it is, if you just keep putting out the best of whatever it is your current level, people will find it. And if it's good enough to be found, it will be. And so I never sweat who's getting what, and, what level they're on. And, I'm better than this person, but they got a super viral video. So now they're working all over. I know comics in my local scene who are not as talented comedically as I am on stage, but they have much bigger platforms because they got viral moments. And I'm not hating on them. I'm super happy for them because you never know when your moment comes, and you got to be ready for it. And I'm my fingers are crossed for both of these comics that I know that they're ready for their moment because it's here now. And there's nothing you can do to create that moment in time. When it comes is when it comes. It's so rare for us to be able to pick, this is the moment. This is going to be my opportunity. This is the thing that is going to catapult me into everybody's household and become a household name from here on out. It's so rare for you to be able to get that moment, especially with the way YouTube works and viral videos, TikTok and that Instagram and all that type of thing. It's just, you just have to do you over and over and over again until people can't deny you. And, that's what we're doing here. And we appreciate all you guys watching us because we're going to keep doing the show regardless of how viral it does or doesn't go. And, it's a labor of love. We're doing this thing Friday morning for you, which is not normally what we do. But, I don't chase the fame. I chase getting better at this craft, whether it be podcasting or stand up or anything else that I do. You're writing scripts and directing things, we're just chasing the betterment of ourselves through what we do. And you hope that people see that and rock with you. And, we've got diehard master debaters and, so we're on the right track.
Yeah. And diehard fans of ours individually as well that have found the show. So it's a great thing. And what Deon said, put the work in and let everything else fall where it may. And couple that with don't be a jerk and do what the opener did to Gary Owen, and you'll be all right in this business. With all that said, guys, thank you. It's been another fun show. We appreciate you. Share if you're loving it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to follow us on IG as well. And we'll see you back here, or maybe we'll see you on stage. You guys have yourself a great, great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.